Hey, Sam, great to be talking to you. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks for having us.
Tell us a little bit about BrainBox AI and your overall market focus.
Sure. So, BrainBox AI got started about 6, 7 years ago, and the goal here was, um, the built environment has now become one of the top five global issues from a climate perspective. We need solutions that could really scale and make a difference. It's obviously a massive footprint, globally located, and and the goal here was to leverage new AI capabilities that are coming our way now. Of course, with generative AI, this massive wave, everyone now gets a taste of it. But even before generative AI, there were capabilities that really mostly kind of tech companies and industrial companies were able to look at and say, okay, there's an application here. In our case, that real moment in time was this autonomous AI. Most people would know it via the self-driving car.
Mhm.
It's there. They're not on our road yet. It needs to get better. The laws need to change, et cetera, et cetera. But that core capability of that self-learning and then self-deciding AI platform was there, and the goal was, can we take that and apply it to buildings in a super scalable fashion to make that dent we need to make on the emissions that buildings are responsible for.
So tell me a little bit more about trends in building management and the HVAC market, heating, ventilation, air conditioning. Highly fragmented market, thousands of HVAC partners out there and building management companies. What are the trends you're seeing in terms of this overall evolution towards digital solutions to support, quote unquote, greener outcomes?
Sure. I mean, like many industries that have gone through this already, you have HVAC, which is composed of some very very large global players, dominant positions in the market, and our focus is the commercial market, just so that
Okay.
we have that context, not single family homes. And so there you have some large players with global footprints that have been selling, hardware, software packages to manage the building, just really
Right.
with the goal of comfort first, right? That's always been a bit the industry focus, and over time, as industries evolve, and in this case here, it's not just an economic evolution. Wouldn't it be cool if we offered live, more software-driven solutions? It is really driven by this need now to make buildings much more efficient than they are. So that evolution's getting the steroid injection in terms of making it go a lot faster. And so now the thinking is, on top of this huge existing base of hardware out there, can we be providing digital overlays and bringing them into the big data era
Right.
in a way that gets the outcomes that we need? And I would comment on the big data. I'm not sure how many pools are out there of this size that generate so much data, and that data is underused or thrown away every day in a way that doesn't happen in many other sectors. This is one of those big ones that are left.
Are there any metrics you can share for us? Like for instance, I have no idea if you've published this. How many do you have thousands of square feet under management, millions of square feet, are you like earlier than that in the market? Where are you?
Sure. I mean, from a scale perspective, we're on that kind of inflection point. I would have said the first 3, 4 years of our existence was just getting into more and more buildings, iron out the tech. As you could see it from the self-driving car, they've been working on it for several years, many billions of dollars, right? We with that same core technology, it's the same thing on our side. We've had to work out the kinks, apply it to more and more systems, more and more control protocols, and get better at it. And I'd say in the last kind of couple of years, it's been that inflection point where we're now in the high hundreds. We'll be in the kind of mid one to 2,000, and only in about 3 or 4 months. So we're at that point where it's taking off,
Mhm.
and touching multiple businesses, multiple building types. So
Right.
anything from a big tower down to kind of a small retail store.
You just mentioned, I think your figures were based on the number of buildings under management, but I think you also put out a stat like the amount of square feet under management. Is it approaching 100 million?
Yes, 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 and it will be crossing it pretty shortly. But again, it really goes in big waves,
Yeah.
depending on what we're working on, what we're deploying. But yeah, it'll be crossing, it'll be getting into the 100 million plus, and then hopefully accelerates again from there. But this market is enormous, right? When you talk
Yeah.
about the real estate market, you're in the hundreds of billions of square feet. So there's a lot of problems out there to solve still.
Okay. All right. And then the customer for this solution, right? Is it the HVAC company or the building management company? And by the way, are they sitting in front of a dashboard each day? And if so, what is your software doing for them to help them understand their carbon emissions, et cetera, or whatever stats you're sharing with them? What actually is the solution?
Yeah, so this is an important part because this gets to the core of our what we are at BrainBox AI and what we invested a lot of capital and a lot of years of people's work to get here. So as I mentioned, it's centered around that autonomous AI and why that's important for this sector. So in the car sector, it's easy. We want to remove the driver and then create all kinds of flexibility and scalability and lower cost, green transportation, all these motivations. In our case, it's to solve that scale problem. This industry suffers from the scale problem in an enormous way. Why? Buildings out there behind me were there before I was born. They'll be here, unfortunately, before you and I, after you and I are gone. You're not ripping and replacing, unlike your cars. We're all going to cycle to electric vehicles eventually. One could have that assumption. And so, but buildings, you're stuck with what you got. We're building, the stat is that we're building a Manhattan-sized pack of buildings every month for the next 40 years. So problem's not getting smaller, it's getting bigger. And mostly each building's unique. So cars, you can pop out 20 models and serve 20 million of them. Here, each building, largely speaking, is unique. So that scalability challenge in our industry is like this massive barrier. And so that core autonomous AI is so important. Okay, so we're going to take the data in a building that's we would say severely underused and today being thrown away, largely speaking, and then marrying it with the external data impacting that building, and then use deep learning to understand that building down to the room level and give it capabilities it doesn't have today. Okay, so today's system, thermostat on the wall says it's cold. That causes a bunch of decision amongst the broader HVAC system to warm it up. Okay, but that's it. That's all it knows. Don't ask it what the weather is outside, what it's going to be in 2 hours. Don't ask it where its electricity is coming from, how much the electricity costs. Is it green or isn't? Like zero. It just knows that. And that's what we are seeking to change, right? We want that HVAC control system to be making decisions based on all these factors. So why am I cooling down that room when it's going to get cloudy in 2 hours? I don't need to cool it down that aggressively. The electricity is going to be time of day pricing really expensive in 2 hours. Can I shift it to another time, consumption to another time? Even more importantly, the electricity now is pretty green, but at 5 o'clock when everyone goes home, and in many places that causes peaker plants to come on that are gas fired, et cetera, it ain't so clean at 5, 6 o'clock. Is there anything we can do to shift the energy consumption to a moment in time when it's greener? I mean, that building needs to be far more intelligent than that thermostat says it's cold. And that's the transformation that we're looking to make. It goes well beyond a dashboard or analytics. It is that autonomous learning and decision making, which brings it to a whole new level of capability.
Got it. Okay. All right. Well, the outcome sounds amazing, but the journey, is there a way for partners that are watching this, for end customers that are watching this, can they proceed in a way where they can begin to transform and take advantage of some of these capabilities without having to like 100% learn everything overnight?
Well, this is the thing, right? I mean, this is the DNA at BrainBox. There's a few core parts of it. One of them is scale and impact. Okay, when we were designing the system years ago at the start, one of the cardinal rules was it has to scale. So as much as possible, we're not getting in there and installing hundreds of pieces of equipment or sensors, et cetera, et cetera. We want to get the data from that building and then be able to send back instructions, right? Ultimately. So today, at the beginning, we started with one edge device. right?
Mhm.
A couple of hours to install. Today, we even have drivers or other methods of connectivity that has no physical presence. So our ability to scale is high, but it's also low interference for the customer. So that's at the core of our mission. So when you mentioned, is there a way for them? Well, yes, installing one bit, like if you manage 100 buildings, start with 5, start with 10, and we're not asking for millions of dollars of investment, and we're not asking for a high interference deployment, right?
Mm.
That's the important part of it. So you can start with a batch of buildings, see the experience, and move on. And the upfront investment is very minimal. So
Mhm.
we're not asking to go through this big internal capex approval and planning all of that. We've taken all of that out of the picture in a lot of cases. Sometimes there is upgrades you need to make, but we're really trying to keep it minimal so that the customer install is a low risk in and out. If you're not happy with the service, we're disengaging in AI and we're moving on.
Mhm.
Um, we're trying to make it as scalable as possible for the
Okay.
customers.
All right,
Yeah.
great. So now building management and this intelligence that you're talking about is a significant piece, a big piece, but it's one piece of an overall sustainability strategy for a company.
Yes.
Are you also able to help clientele and your partners with like target setting and progress measurement and reporting? And what role do you play there, if any?
Yeah, no, that is something fairly new for us, a service that we launched in the last months. So we to do what we do that we've been talking about up until now means the collection of a very large amount of data from the building, from outside sources. We need that to make the autonomous AI work, but that data is now there as opposed to a building today that's making decisions. It's collecting data from all the sensors, makes a decision, and then that data gets erased in 5 days when the computer runs out of space. We're changed that completely. So now that data is kept forever. It's standardized. It can be used by us, could be used by others. But having now that data available, we are now delivering the ability to measure your carbon footprint on your real
Mhm.
estate portfolio, right? That's
Okay.
our focus. And report it. You have all kinds of data to back it up. It's audit ready report with even frankly too much granular data, but it's there. And then after that, being able to continuously measure it so that what impact we have, great. But like you said, many other things need to happen at the same time. So have that data though there is available though, tracking how your emissions are going year after year.
Got it.
But again, what happens when you take an industry that is generating data and throwing it away to keeping it, utilizing it, standardizing it? Now you get into the capability to do what you just mentioned, which is now becoming more and more important every year.
Yep, without a doubt, without a doubt. On the website, we continue to track more and more companies that are making their net zero target pledges, et cetera. And it's a worldwide trend without a doubt.
Mhm.
On the one hand, I welcome the news. On the other hand, is there any danger here of companies putting a stake in the ground and making a pledge, but not really having a grip on how they're going to get there? Any risk here?
Wow. I, I think if you're in the industry, you're following it, you would say that's most companies. Okay, which you can't. I want on one hand, you want to encourage it. Like the importance here is we get emissions down.
Yeah,
Period. There's no other outcome that is satisfactory, right? So
right,
you want that ambitious one. We're tracking it. So step one, super important.
right.
But B, we have an ambitious goal to make it happen. And when you need change fast, put out the ambitious goals. Yes, over a 5-year period, it's going to change and evolve and adapt, and you'll learn stuff and new technology will come out. But the important thing is it's a priority of the board, a priority of the senior management team, and hopefully it trickles down to the incentive systems within the team, the team executing every day. Okay, that's
Yeah.
the most important part. So we need the tools for that to get executed for sure. I mean, there's now so many companies out there working on climate technologies. Undoubtedly new technologies or approaches will come out in the next 2, 5, 10 years. The important thing is we have a goal and we can adapt for it along the way. So that state of fact that says people have made a goal but we're not sure how they're going to get there, I'd say that's 90% of it.
Yeah.
99% of the companies out there. The important thing is that real actions are being taken. And you know what I say to large kind of companies, corporations that we interact with, you need to adapt some of the startup mentality, right? Startup, try 8 things, knowing 5 of them are going to fail, because in the startup world, speed matters. Well, now that we're dealing with climate, speed matters. So guess what? It's okay that you try 5 things and 3 of them fail. That is okay.
Yeah.
The true crime is not moving and not trying,
Yeah.
right? Then we're dead in the water. I mean, there is no positive outcome there.
Yeah. You know what? Here's a question for you. I could have asked it in the opening, but I wanted our viewers to first get a feel for your passion for this topic. Now they have viewers now who have been watching so far have understand that you're passionate about this. Now I want to ask why. What triggered this for you? Was there a moment, an aha moment, or has this been a long-term sort of focus?
Joe, I will say I fall in the category of, I don't want to call it recent converts, but converts of the last 5 years. And my background, Joe, I started off as a lawyer for a while, then went in largely into private equity investing, and there investing in multiple industries, a large number of different industries. So I've been on the ground with companies of very different kinds, some manufacturing, some large kind of steel making, some software. So I've had that experience. I get a sense of teams that succeed, businesses that succeed, and whatnot. This journey for me at BrainBox has really lit a fire under the proverbial backside. Like, I think it's clear, I hope to most now, and every summer that goes by, it's just a reminder, it just keeps getting worse. If I'm wrong, or many of us are wrong, and the scientists are all wrong, that this is a trend and it reverses, great. I'm happy, my children will be fine. But I think it's becoming abundantly clear every year that goes by, it's getting worse, and unfortunately faster than we actually had thought years
Yeah.
back, right? So for me, it's been a personal journey. I know what it takes for the inside of companies to change. I've been there, not all of them. I don't pretend to know everything, obviously, but I've been in the middle of them. When you have a business that's been operating for 30, 40 years, successfully, great product, customers are happy, but in there is an ingrained behavior and approach to doing things. We need to shake that tree like crazy. I
Yeah.
could tell you that from my seat. We need to shake that tree like crazy. And so when I met the team, the original founders of BrainBox, and our inventor who was with building optimization approaches that have been there for years before, I mean, his passion was, there's a new capability out there. Let's bring it into this industry and shake that tree, right? And when I joined, learn more and more about it, the real estate industry is not a fast adopting industry, period. Well, guess what? It needs to be. And so when you know what it takes to change, and you see what's happening out there from a climate perspective, those two for me was the moment of like, okay, something needs to happen here. And when Joe, when you asked the question, you're kind of alluding to, were you the person chained to a redwood tree 20 years ago in California? No, I wasn't. You won't find any pictures of me there.
Yeah.
But that group of people, they're sold, right?
Yeah.
They're going. You
Yeah.
have the resistors on the other side. That group of people we need to keep working on to convince. But to me, it's that middle group that knows something needs to change. I see it in their eyes. There's a bit of, the problem is so big that you also see a bit of resignation, a little bit of giving up, because the problem is bigger than all of us,
Yeah.
in such a huge way that for me, it's like, okay, we got to find a way to move that middle crowd faster. And
Yeah.
that's what for me is what I've become passionate about. My day-to-day friends might be annoyed at me by now for how passionate I am about it and how much I repeat the message, but we got to find a way to encourage the movement of that large middle crowd that knows something is wrong.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm passionate about.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it
Yep.
comes through. It comes through in a genuine way. And and you just described me, by the way. I was not that redwood tree hugger. I covered the MSP market forever, and I covered private equity as well. And I saw all these great outcomes for the MSPs in terms of selling their businesses. And I was very fortunate. I sold a business, and I was like, well, what's next for me? What can I do that's of significance? And the more I looked at this market, I'm like, God, someone's got to start covering this from a partner perspective. So that's why I'm in the pool with you, and I'm enjoying the swim, but I'm worried about the swim. You know, to use a bad cliche, the water's getting hot. So, but hopefully we get this right. But speaking of partners, from my vantage point, as I understand it, I think you've got technology partners, strategic partners, maybe master systems integrators as well. You know, are partners in each category gaining momentum yet, or is it still early in certain categories?
I think for us, again, when you're pursuing a novel technologies like ours, and it's moving quickly, just like many other sectors that in which AI is being applied, it's moving so quick. Like every 6 or 8 months, the position you were in 6 or 8 months ago is unrecognizable. That's our life, right? So for sure, as we've worked with partners, have we been perfect 3-4 years ago? Absolutely not. Do we continue to improve? Absolutely yes. And different partners are willing to accept that uncertainty. And I would say, again, in this industry, there's a lot of kind of steady state. And so we've certainly learned, okay, where can we move the fastest? What partners are open to change and investing the time it takes to make a new novel technology like this work. But at the core of it, we are a partnership um, structured business, or need to be more and more, because ultimately we're plugging into other people's assets. Right, those assets are there, they're being installed, they're being managed, they're being upgraded, they're being retrofitted by a whole network of people. We're looking to put in this intelligent overlay into an existing set. If I was selling new buildings every day, then I could do whatever I want in my own sandbox, but that's not our reality. So definitely we look to work with more and more partners. We've announced a few partnerships. There'll be a couple of more being announced in the coming weeks, and that's part of our DNA. But we recognize, like, it is a completely new way of thinking. I mean, Joe, what generative AI has done to us is just, AI used to be this nebulous thing, right? Working in the background on your phone, choosing movies or suggesting movies, and doing this on social media and doing that in the background. It was always a challenge for us to keep communicating to our industry just how transformative this is. Certainly generative AI has given a big, boost in the arm here, because it's now clear to everybody. You and I as individuals can touch now and look and feel. You may love it, you may not love it, but you're certainly clear that it is an entirely new capability. That's what we've been trying to communicate. We continue to communicate, which is, this is a completely novel way of doing things, and we have to adopt it, and that's not always easy, right? That famous S curve, it's there for a reason. It's repeated every time for a reason. And so for us, we drive to be partnership driven. We hope more come along. With completely novel technology, it's not always an easy thing.
Got it. So you mentioned, the sort of the partner strategy, and you mentioned how AI, more and more people now understand it thanks to generative AI. I agree. Now, I just want to draw a fine line here. You've spoken about autonomous AI, and
Yeah.
I think here's a thesis for you. Without autonomous AI, if you didn't have that piece of it, I think one of the challenges here would be all these service providers or the building managers themselves would have to build out like these network operating centers with people sitting around watching your software in action, and hire a bunch of professionals to do this. It sounds to me what you're saying is, don't forget the autonomous word, because this is going to go in, and it doesn't sound like it's 100% automated, but very much working on its own.
Well, and that's important, because I mean, I alluded to the example of the self-driving car. Yeah, okay, but your car, as we all know, has a steering wheel, a brake, gas, some indicators. That's it. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 pieces that you need to modulate to get you from point A to point B.
Right.
One singular building, 30 floors, 400 HVAC zones. There must be, thousands of individual pieces of equipment. Who's going to sit there and go chase every kilowatt hour of saving, and so on and so forth? So that for in our world, why without the autonomous AI, I mean, a bit our industry has suffered from kind of dashboarditis. Okay, here's the data, here's the dashboard, here's the data, here's the dashboard. Okay, but somebody's got to do something with the data coming out of that dashboard to make an impact. And that's what we've sought to invest in. And it has been a tough journey, as you can tell. Like, I mean, to make that autonomous, that brain that's going to decide to slow down that fan on the 6th floor in the boardroom, right? To make that work in real time has been a challenge. And that's the challenge we've sought to tackle and what we're deploying today. The funny thing in our case is our dashboard caught up. We were quite bad at dashboarding. Our dashboard was worse than, probably ranked the lowest in the industry, because we're so focused on making that autonomous decision making work, because without that, there is no impact.
Got
And
it.
so that's why I think that's been our journey. And you're right, like, without that, we have a very fancy, our CTO uses the example and I like it. We have a very fancy GPS,
Right.
but it's entirely two different worlds. A self-driving car will get us many things. A GPS is useful, no doubt. I use that every day. But a self-driving car will change our entire world out there. I'm pointing to
Yeah.
the street outside, right? That will change everything. Fancy GPS, very helpful.
Got it. Okay. All right. Now, your journey has also included a recent raise. I think you raised about $20 million, give or take. And as part of that, I think you may have acquired an energy management systems integrator. Fast forward to this interview. Can you give us any update? Like, you made those moves. How are the moves playing out? How's the integration going on the acquisition? And how are you prioritizing the spend of that money?
Sure. So we did. We announced a couple of months back. We did a 20 million raise that we then topped up to 30 million at the end of June, with the addition of a European insurance company as investor. And at the same kind of period, we worked on an acquisition of a division of our partner ABB, and that division basically, it's been around for 20 some odd years. Their mission in life is, I serve retailers. As they open up new stores, I deliver to them the HVAC and lighting controls, right?
Right.
So, and long-term reputation, good, stable business. What we found really attractive is that they always, over time, maintain the connection to those stores via, server connection. And that for us was a really attractive aspect, because it basically 12,000 stores historically, growing every year, and we could have access to that base to rapidly deploy this layer of AI technology that would deliver energy efficiency, emissions reductions in a way that, no upfront investment, very scalable. And so that was at the core of it, the attractive feature for us. I like the way you alluded to integration. So we are, I guess we define ourselves as a scale up at this point. It is our first acquisition. I was doing private equity before, so I've lived through multiple acquisitions, which only means you know how hard they are. And so, for us, for sure, doing this first acquisition is pushing the teams and making sure it's a success. It has come with a bump in deployments really quickly, with the layering on top of the autonomous artificial intelligence. So the team, not only are we doing an integration, we're also doing a record number of deployments for this division. So double the challenges, integration plus getting to new scale levels. But that's all for the positive in our minds. It's never easy, but we're quite excited. Right? The retail sector is obviously an enormous footprint. It has its own challenge in that if you get one big building of 1 million square feet, well, in a retailer, you'll get 500 buildings that are much smaller. So,
Yeah.
it's important to find that scalable solution that'll make the impact, et cetera, with that kind of footprint. So we're very excited. The integration is ongoing. We just closed the actual acquisition at the end of June, so we're really 30 days in, but it's going full tilt at this point.
Got it. And it was you corrected me or updated me. It was originally a $20 million raise. It actually went out to 30 million without revealing any pricing for the acquisition. What was the raise primarily for the acquisition, or is it for an overall business expansion?
No, it's really almost entirely focused for the business expansion.
Okay.
Really. So the acquisition was done on an equity basis. So it really is focused to continue two big categories. The innovation does not stop.
Mhm.
There's always more to come, new systems to reach, better performance to achieve, and then the commercial structure, building out that commercial structure. So that's the reason for the fundraise. So the acquisition was a very attractive opportunity, but wasn't the driver behind the fundraise.
Okay, all right,
Yeah.
great. Listen, you've covered a lot of territory for us. Thank you. So for partners who are watching this and want to learn more about your strategy, is there a particular URL or website they should go check out to get some info?
So the partners for us are customers, partners on the distribution side. So head to the website, and you can find your way to the section that is most relevant to you. But www.brainboxai.com. Like you mentioned, you alluded to the acquisition we just made. If you're in the retail segment and want to see this new capability in action, please reach out. Even the general email on the website will get you a response. So thank you.
Fantastic. Well, Sam, thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you so much, Joe, for having us.